Hello students, welcome back to my class. Today we are going to discuss one of the greatest poets of America, Walt Whitman. And Walt Whitman is not only considered as one of the greatest poets of America, but also the world literature. Walt Whitman was a poet of 19th century America when America was passing through different transitions, political, social and cultural. And Whitman is also considered as the poet of the common man or a democratic poet. He is the poet of nature. He is the American Wordsworth, and he has so many titles to his poetic abilities. So let us look at Whitman as a poet. So Whitman, as a person, he believed that experience should be truly cosmic in amplitude, excluding nothing, denying nothing. That means Whitman was a poet who believed in all the experiences of life, the total experience of life. Life means a totality. And Whitman was highly influenced by the transcendentalism and the Indian Brahmanism, means the Vedic concept of life, where life is distributed equally among all the constituents of this earth and the cosmos. So Whitman strongly subscribed to the concept of a humanity, a humanism which is beyond racialism, which was one of the plus points of conflict in America, as well as beyond political divisions, beyond cultural, religious divisions, and he appreciated very enthusiastically all forms of life, all aspects of life, all experiences of life. He recognized the legitimacy of both body and soul. So in his poem, in his poetry, we find the expression of body and soul without any inhibition. And for that, sometimes controversies are created about Whitman. Whitman is branded by few critics as propagating the uninhibited sexualism that is associated with American culture. But Whitman is not a poet, not a personality who is simply looking at the sexuality or the sexuality from a gender point of view, because he, in his poetry, in his philosophy, in his ideas, he always expounded, I am equally a male and a female. He had accepted the Ardhanarishwar concept of the Vedic philosophy in every form of life. And he disregarded social conventions and public morality and his deep love for the animals brought within the compass of his imaginative sympathy the entire creation of God. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that he appreciated and he accepted in his life. Therefore, his poetry, which is encompassed in leaves of grass, where the grass, he is giving importance to the grass, which is neglected in favor of all the bigger plants or creatures, creations of this earth. But he is telling grass is everywhere, and grass is the most symbol of most democratic life, form of life. And grass also symbolizes that binary of life and death and the cycle of life and death. So, in Whitman's poetry, we find the true spirit that Wordsworth professed, that poetry should be for the common man, poetry should be the life of common man, it should sing the song of common man. But in his efforts, in his implementation, Wordsworth faltered, but Whitman had succeeded in bringing that to his poetry. There lies the greatness of Whitman. Unlike other poets who only weave a cobweb of sentimental love for mankind, Whitman always translated his humanities into action. So, he is considered as truly a humanist, truly a democratic poet. He speaks for everyone, he stands for everyone. He loves both life outside and inside. In some of his poems, he has claimed, I am a man who is going out and out. I fall in love with the objects that is there in the outer world. He falls in love with each and every part of the creation. So, that is the essential Whitman. And on the political plane, he denounced all prerogatives and vested interest. On the social plane, he visualized complete harmony between individual and society. So, he wanted the complete harmony that is between individual and society without having the distinction of political ideologies and all that. So, he is been considered as a great leveler, the uncompromising apostle of equality and fraternity. And he is not only the poet of America, but the poet of the whole world. The world literature very proudly accepts Whitman as one of the significant bards. And today we are going to discuss only a poem. He had composed thousands of poems, but we are going to analyze one poem, O Captain, My Captain. And this poem is also having a great relation to American history, because here he is mourning the death of the 16th President of America, Abraham Lincoln. You all know Abraham Lincoln, a great President of America, who rose from his poverty and depravity to be the champion of humanity, who was responsible for abolishing the slavery in America, who wanted to do away with the racial discrimination in America, from which even now America is suffering from. Black Lives Matters. And during his period, for his pioneering works, for his abolition of slavery, America went into the Civil War. between the Confederates of States, the rich, powerful white states of South America, and the states of the North America. And Abraham Lincoln, like a true champion of humanity, true leader of the people, led America through the Civil War to again unify America by defeating the divisive forces, the Confederate States, and again unifying and making America a strong nation on the earth. But sadly, like every great man, he was assassinated. There were many attempts on his life, and he was several times being attempted to be assassinated. But finally, on 14th April 1865, when he was watching a play, American Cousin, in the theatre, was shot at by one of the persons who was associated with the American theatre, that was John Wilkes Booth. And Booth had also 3 more conspirators, and Booth assassinated Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln finally died on 15th April, the next day, and it was a great effect on the American life. His funeral was attended by large number of people from America, and the whole world felt that a great soul has been taken away by madness of mankind. So, Walt Whitman had written 4 poems for Abraham Lincoln, and from the 4 poems, we are going to discuss this "O Captain, My Captain." And the 4 poems, Memories of President Lincoln, he had written. I am just uttering the names. When lilacs last in the dooryard bloomed. Second one is "O Captain, My Captain." Third one is "Hushed be the camps today. This dust was once the man." These are 4 poems. So you can imagine that how far Walt Whitman was overwhelmed by the death, by the sad demise of Abraham Lincoln. And "O Captain, My Captain" is one of the most anthologized, most recited, famous poem by Walt Whitman in memory of Abraham Lincoln. It is an elegy. It is a poem, it is an elegy, it is a sad mourning in the memory of Abraham Lincoln. Though the poem is in free verse, it is in free verse. And the poet is taking a balladic note. It is just like a ballad, not in the ballad form, not in the ballad arrangement, but the mood is sad in the balladic form, balladic way. It is an elegy, but in a balladic note. So, let us look at the poem. "O Captain, my Captain, our fearful trip is done. The ship has weathered every wreck. The prize we sought is won." So, the poet is imagining. The poet is imagining that he is a fellow traveler in the same ship. The ship here is America, United States of America. And captain is Abraham Lincoln, the President of America. And now the Civil War is over. And at the end of the Civil War, the poet is presenting it in an allegorical manner. In an allegorical manner, he is presenting, "O captain, my captain, our fearful trip is done." So the fearful trip is the American Civil War. The ship has weathered every wreck. The ship is referring to United States of America, the nation, which has weathered every wreck, every mutiny, every condition of adversity. They have weathered. They have gone through all the adversity, all the trouble, the mutiny, the rebellion, under the strong and visionary leadership of the captain Abraham Lincoln. The prize we sought is won, and the poet is expressing a sort of elation, happiness, a celebration that the prize we sought. What was the prize? The prize was the unification of United States of America, the unity of the whole country, and the identity of America as the melting pot. America is called as the melting pot of all race, all civilization, all culture, because people from different parts of the world migrated to America or brought to America, but they have melted together to form one of the best nations. So that was the prize, that was the vision of Abraham Lincoln. So the poet is telling the prize is won. The port is near, the bells I hear, the people all exulting. So the travel is now nearing to the end. Now the Civil War has almost come to an end, and all the people of America will be celebrating this victory or this unification of America, because Lincoln never wanted to defeat anyone. He said victory means when both the parties, both the adversaries will be unified. So he is telling the port is near, the bell we hear, and the people are exulting, people are excited, they are celebrating. We are very near to that state of our goal. While follow eyes the steady keel, the vessel grim and daring. And while follow eyes, but still, when they look at the journey of the ship, the keel of the ship, they are still observing. Though they have won the war, but Lincoln has never been relaxed. Lincoln was working still how to lead American people jointly from both the warring states together. So as a captain, he is still engaged, he is still observing, he is very keen to lead the people together. Therefore, as a captain, while follow eyes the steady keel, the keel is steady, the ship is moving steadily. There is no relaxation, there is no wavering. The vessel grim and daring, the vessel is grim. Why grim? Because it is a sadness. We have fought against our own people. So Lincoln is never happy. He is grim, but daring. But he is also daring. The ship is also daring. Because we have to do this for the welfare of the people, for the benefit of the people, for the benefit of the nation. But oh heart, 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 There is a repetition, but oh heart, heart, heart. That means suddenly the poet discovers. What he discovers? Oh, the bleeding drops of red. The captain is injured. The captain is shot at. Somebody has shot at the captain and the blood is oozing out. It is falling onto the deck of the ship. He is referring to that shootout in the theatre on 14th April. So, oh, the bleeding drops of red, where on the deck my captain lies, and the captain is falling there on the deck. He is lying there in the pool of blood, pool of his own blood, fallen cold and dead. So, the poet is extremely sad that in such a celebrating moment, such a victorious moment, the captain, the leader, has fallen cold and dead. He had died. He had been killed and he had become cold. His body has become cold. O captain, my captain, rise up and hear the bells. The poet is now out of his mind. He doesn't know what to do. Suddenly the ship is becoming leaderless. The ship is becoming rudderless. So his mind is not working. So he is telling, "Oh captain, my captain, rise up and hear the bells. Oh, for you the bells are being rung on the shore. People are going to welcome you. They are going to celebrate the success of you. So you please listen to those bells. Rise up. For you the flag is flung. You have to rise. Why? For you, the national flag of America is flung. People are having the flags in their hand. They are waving the flags to you. They want to welcome you as their leader, as their undisputed leader, as their successful leader. For you the bugle trills, and for you only the bugle is making the sound. The bugle is welcoming you. The welcome sound from the bugle is for you only. So you please rise up. Why you are sleeping there? For you bouquets and ribbon wreaths. For you people have come with bouquets and ribbon wreaths. The ribbon is there on the wreaths. They have not brought it for your dead body. They have brought it for you to welcome, for you to greet, for you to acknowledge as their leader, to thank you from the bottom of their heart that you have saved their nation, you have saved them. For you the shores a crowding, and for you only the shore is crowding. People have gathered in large numbers to see you, to have a look at you, to welcome you, and to repose their faith on you, to repose their confidence on you. They have all the confidence in you that you are the right leader for them to lead. And now the time is also right, because you have done away with all the troubles, all the conflicts, and again United States of America is standing unified. It is really united by you. For you they call, the swaying mass, their eager faces turning. And the poet is swaying to the fallen body of the captain. Look, there, the swaying mass, the people are singing the song and swaying their bodies. And their eager faces turning, they are eagerly looking at the approaching ship. They are eagerly looking how to discover the captain. Where is the captain? They want to Look at your face, look at you. They are very eager. Here, Captain, dear father. But the poet also knows the captain cannot respond to this eagerness, to this celebration, to this exaltation. So he is telling, here, Captain, dear father. He is calling him dear father. Means you are the father of the nation. You are the dear father to all these people of America. This arm beneath your head. And you are lying here when all the people of America have come out to celebrate your victory, to repose faith in you, to welcome you, to greet you. You are lying here, putting your head, putting your arm beneath your head. You are taking rest. It is some dream that on the deck you have fallen cold and dead. The poet is telling, I can't imagine. How can I imagine this man who have weathered all the problems of life, who have weathered all the problems of the country, he will fall to the bullets of a madman. So he is telling, I can't believe, is it a dream that you have fallen here cold and dead? Your death is not believable. It looks as if I am dreaming that you have fallen cold and dead, when the whole of America is eagerly waiting to welcome you. My captain doesn't answer. His lips are pale and still. So the poet is now like a small child responding to this strange situation, to this unexpected sadness, to this great tragedy. So he is telling, my captain doesn't answer. Oh, my captain, why don't you answer to my queries, to the greetings of the people? His lips are pale and still. His lips are pale and still. My father doesn't feel my arm. He has no pulse nor will. My father, you can't feel my arm. I am trying to wake you up. I am trying to raise you up, but you can't feel my arm. He has no pulse nor will. I can't find your pulse. The pulse, the vibrations of life is missing there. And in your heart, in your mind, the will to live, the will to wake up, the will to respond is also gone. The ship is anchored safe and sound, its buoys closed and dawn. So this is a line, very important. The ship is anchored safe and sound. America is safe. This line is having a reflection of Coleridge's famous poem. Coleridge, the romantic poet of England, who wrote about supernaturals and nature. So, his famous poem, that is where equally the captain is finding that the captain is punished, is finding that all the crew are dead, in spite of the ship being docked. So, here he is telling the ship is anchored safe and sound, its voyage closed and dawn. The voyage is over, the journey is over, the war is over. Now, we are safe. United States of America is once again unified and a strong country. From fearful trip, the victor ship comes in the object own. This ship which went to the fearful trip, it was a fearful trip. Why? Because there was every fear that America will be divided, America will be disintegrated. But that fearful trip is now over. And victor's ship comes in object own, and the victorious ship comes with its object's own. It has owned its object, it has fulfilled its voyage. So these two lines, they echo the Ancient Mariner poem of Coleridge. But here the poet is feeling that fear, but in a trance, because the trance is used in Ancient Mariner. Nothing is exactly clear. So the poet is in his mind, the poet is also in a trance. He can't believe the reality. Exult, O shores, and ring, O bells, but I with mournful tread walk the deck, my captain lies fallen cold and dead. So the poet is now standing because the ship is coming to the shore. People are there to greet. All the people of America, they also can't believe that their captain is lying dead, because they are celebrating this moment of victory. So the poet is telling, exalt, O shores. O shores means, oh, the people of America, you exalt, you celebrate, and ring the bells, you ring the bells. Why? Because the poet believes like a small child, as if those things can make the captain wake up, as if those things can bring back Abraham Lincoln to his life. So, exalt, O shores, and ring, O bells, but I with mournful tread. But I am mournful. You may celebrate, but I am feeling sorrow. I am feeling so sad. Why? Walk the deck, my captain lies. When I am walking on the deck, I am finding my captain is lying dead. He is lying there, lifeless. But for whom all these celebrations are meant? But you go on celebrating, because this celebration gives value to his life. That what he has done for us, by celebrating, we can celebrate him. So the poet is telling you, celebrate, but I am mournful on the deck. I can't celebrate because I am there with the body of my captain. When he is lying there on the deck, fallen cold and dead. He has fallen cold and dead. I can't go beyond the reality. The reality is that he is dead. And you people celebrate. Why? That his death is not the end. His death is, his life is not wasted. His life is successful. We have to celebrate that success. His death is also suggesting that he had done a great work. He is a great soul. He has done a great work. So the ordinary humanity cannot tolerate. So the ordinary humanity will eliminate those souls. So with this mournful sadness, the poem ends. And the poem is having different line structure, because I told you that Walt Whitman wrote in free verse, and here within also you can find anaphora, the repetition, that is fallen cold and dead at the end of almost 3 stanzas, the 3 stanzas we are having. So in this way, the language also, we can analyze the language of Walt Whitman. Walt Whitman believes in the simplest of the expression, simplest of the language. So this is the poem, and from this poem we can discuss questions like Walt Whitman as a poet, or Walt Whitman's O Captain, My Captain as an elegy. we can discuss that later on. And for this poem, I have taken help from Donald Davies' The Ways Out of Whitman, that is one book, and another is Charles M. Oliver's Walt Whitman. It is in Critical Companion to series. Critical Companion series. These are the two books I have taken help of, and also I have taken help of this present book, which is having both text and the introduction, and this book is produced by Shiv K. Kumar. So, you can also go for other reference books if you like. Thank you.